Let's discuss the New York Times 10 best books of 2023 and see whether or not they got it right. Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here. Welcome back. Today we are going to discuss the 10 best books of 2023 as listed by the New York Times. We're going to discuss whether or not I've read the book, whether or not I would read the book, and if I agree, if I've read it. So let's just jump right in. I am going to read their description and then talk about my thoughts. So for fiction, the first book we have is The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, and here's the description. Murray makes his triumphant return with The Bee Sting, a tragic comic tale about an Irish family grappling with crisis. The Barneses, Dickie, Imelda, Cass, and PJ, are a wealthy Irish clan whose fortunes begin to plummet after the 2008 financial crisis. But in addition to this shared hardship, all four are dealing with demons of their own. The reemergence of a long-kept secret, blackmail, the death of a past love, a vexing frenemy, a worrisome internet pen pal, and more. The novel threads together the stories of the increasingly isolated Barneses, but the overall tapestry Murray weaves is not one of desolation, but of hope. This is a book that showcases one family's incredible love and resilience, even as their world crumbles around them. So, I haven't read this book yet, but it is on my list of books to read. It sounds really interesting to me. I love the complexity they're in, especially when we're unpacking family issues. This book was also shortlisted for the Booker Prize. It didn't win, but that's a huge accomplishment. So this is definitely one that I plan on checking out. The next book we have is Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This is one I actually own. He had a book talk and signing here in DC and I went. So this is one I'm definitely planning to read. It probably won't happen before the end of this year, but it's definitely first quarter of next year for sure. Let's talk about what it's about. A dystopian satire in which death row inmates duel on TV for a chance at freedom. Adjei-Brenyah's debut novel, following his 2018 story collection Friday Black, which I've reviewed here on the channel, so check it out, pulls the reader into the eager audience, making us complicit with the bloodthirsty fans sitting ringside. As much as this book made me laugh at these parts of the world I recognize as being mocked, it also made me wish I recognized less of it. Hiri Nathan wrote in his review, "The United States of Chain Gang All-Stars is like ours if sharpened to absurd points. Amid a wrenching love story between two top competitors who are forced to choose between each other and freedom, the fight scenes are so well written they demonstrate how easy it might be to accept a world this sick." I do remember going to the talk and really enjoying it, and just the concept of the book when I first read about it really drew me in, and that's why I actually went to check out the talk. I wasn't aware of Friday Black beforehand, but people raved about it. People I met there were talking so highly of it that I definitely had to get it. And I'm excited to read this book because of the premise. Like even this line here where it says, "Chain Gang All-Stars is like ours if sharpened to absurd points." But many would argue that our world has already been sharpened to absurd points. So what does that mean? So I'm really interested in how he chooses to address the prison industrial complex from this satirical point of view. And I love dystopian novels, so I really am looking forward to reading this one. Next up, we have Eastbound by Melis de Carango. And here's the description. De Carango's brief lyrical novel, first published in France in 2012 and newly translated by Jessica Moore, follows a young Russian conscript named Alyosha on a trans-Siberian train packed with other soldiers. The mood is grim. Alyosha, unnerved by his surroundings after a brawl, decides to desert, and in doing so, creates an uneasy alliance with a civilian passenger, a French woman. Their desolate environment, De Carango describes the Siberian landscape as a world turned inside out like a glove, raw, wild, empty, only heightens the stakes. The insecurity of existence across this vastness and on board the train emphasizes the significance of human connection. Our reviewer, Ken Kalfas, wrote, "In a time of war, this connection may bring liberation and salvation." I will acknowledge that this book sounds interesting. I probably wouldn't check it out. It doesn't seem the most interesting to me, but if I did, it would be at some future point. So as of right now, I have no intention of reading it. All right, next up we have The Fraud by Zadie Smith. If you saw my video about books I purchased in London, this was one of them. I was able to get an autographed copy. So I do have it. I do plan to read it. Again, probably not end of this year, first quarter of next year for sure. Because I do want to read a lot of these books that I know will be like award buzzworthy next year. And I want to see whether or not I agree with the decisions that are being made. Here's the description. Based on a celebrated 19th century criminal trial in which the defendant was accused of impersonating a nobleman, Smith's novel offers a vast, acute panoply of London and the English countryside and successfully locates the social controversies of an era and a handful of characters. Chief among them are a widowed Scottish housekeeper who avidly follows the trial and a formerly enslaved Jamaican servant who testifies on behalf of the claimant. Smith is a talented critic as well as a novelist and, by way of the housekeeper's employer, a once popular writer and friendly rival of Dickens, she finds ample opportunity to send up the literary culture of the time while reflecting on whose stories are told and whose are overlooked. As always, it is a pleasure to be in Zadie Smith's mind, which, as time goes on, is becoming contentious with London itself. Karen Mahajan wrote in his review, Dickens may be dead, but Smith, thankfully, is alive. So again, definitely plan on reading this one. Sounds interesting, something I'm looking forward to checking out. Next up, we have North Woods by Daniel Mason. And this is actually a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, so let's get into the description. Mason's ambitious, kaleidoscopic novel ushers readers over the threshold of a house in the wilds of Western Massachusetts and leaves us there for 300 years and almost 400 pages. One after another, in sections interspersed with letters, poems, song lyrics, diary entries, medical case notes, real estate listings, vintage botanical illustrations, and assorted ephemera not normally bound into the pages of a novel, we get to know the inhabitants of the place from colonial times to present day. There's an apple farmer, an abolitionist, and a wealthy manufacturer, a pair of beetles, a landscape painter, a ghost. Their lives and deaths briefly intersect, but mostly lay over each other in a dazzling decoupage. All the while, the natural world looks on, a long-suffering, occasionally destructive presence. Mason is the consummate genial host, inviting you to stay as long as you like and to make of the place what you will. So I must acknowledge this one is already on my list of books to read. It's in my library cart. I think that like I'm on the wait list and there are hundreds of people before me, but it is a book that I plan to get to in the new year, hopefully. It is a work that I'm interested in. The description itself doesn't draw me in as much as I would like when I usually decide to pick up a book, but I am really interested in books that have been nominated for like the Nobel or the Pulitzer, and obviously the Nobel is for authors, but I am intrigued in like what books are winning these prestigious awards. So I'm interested in this type of writing right now. And those are the books that were written under the fiction category. There are nonfiction. I'm probably not gonna get to many of those soon. I do read nonfiction, but I tend to lean more towards fiction, so those are the ones that I wanted to come on here and discuss. But yeah, that's where I've landed. I think overall those are like solid choices. I didn't read a lot of books that came out this year, so I'm not as well versed as I would like to be, but I'm planning to change that really soon. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are any of them books that you hadn't heard of, but now you're interested in reading them? Also let me know that. But that is it for me today, guys. Until the next one, as always, I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. Please remember to give time, to be kind to each other, and to have the very best day of your life on purpose. Peace, odabo, adios, ciao, and happy vlogmas.